Thanks for joining us for This Week in Odyssey, where subscribers to Odyssey, the print MIS for marketing ideas for printers, can discover what's new in Odyssey and learn about the best practices to use Odyssey to its fullest. Let's get started.
Well, good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are located, and welcome to Marketing Ideas for Printers This Week in Odyssey webinar. So today's webinar is episode number 16, if anyone is wanting to know how many Odyssey webinars have occurred to date. We will be presenting these webinars every other Wednesday morning. Please note the webinar occurs at 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 p.m. Eastern time zone. And this bi-weekly webinar will focus on release notes, if there's any noteworthy bug fixes, a few tips and tricks, anything and everything that you would like to know about Odyssey. And on today's episode, I will be going over the marketing section in Odyssey. This has been worked on for improvements and updates in the past, and it continues to be worked on as we speak. The look and feel marketing, that will be changing in the near future, however. I feel this is a great area of Odyssey that hasn't been covered yet during these webinars and deserves its own mention. Also, be sure to stick around till the end of the video where I'm going to show a quick overview of permissions. So with that, we never know how many new folks might be on the webinar, or maybe you haven't seen one in quite a while. I'm going to quick go over the help section in the upper right here of Odyssey. If I click the help button, the View Odyssey documentation, that will take you to our user guide, which is being updated considerably this quarter. Clicking on Odyssey release notes, that will simply take you to our location where we update you on what's been happening in Odyssey. And then if you select open a support ticket, you are taken to the control center of your website where you could submit an inquiry, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. So that is the help section that I know I've gone on over and over, but like I mentioned, we never know who's new on here and kind of wondering what those different selections do. There's just a couple fixes that I wanted to mention that were made since we last met. There were some sales tax inconsistencies with some customers, I should say some of your customers. It was found that creating estimates with a blank component was the culprit, and we have updated to handle those sort of cases. One other fix I want to mention was, for whatever reason, with some of the reorder forms, the cutting calculation that Odyssey was attempting to calculate wasn't working correctly. We have now updated that, so with reorder forms, if you have a pre or post-press cutting resource being used, that should not be a problem anymore. So I am going to go into marketing. And just a quick note here, I'm going to be doing this live. I'll be logging into my personal social media connections. Some of them I set up tests just for the company, but I'll be kind of going through the motions that you would be doing as well if you were to be setting up some marketing campaigns through Odyssey. So with that, I have my marketing icon here at the top. I don't use it as much. If you want to move icons around, when you hover over an icon, you get these 4 crosshairs. You can then move an icon around as I'm doing and drop it. But I'm going to leave it at the top here. It's just where I happen to like it. But feel free to organize these icons in the Odyssey dashboard however you'd like. Hovering over marketing, you can either add a new campaign or view all. I just like to go into view all, and I'm going to do the same for you folks, just so you can see all the different areas that you can go into marketing. So here's the main page of marketing. Campaigns is where Odyssey defaults to taking you. There's also what's called a contact list and an accounts tab. What I'm going to do, and what you would logically most likely do first if you're new to this, is go to the contact list tab. What this does is gives you the ability to create a new contact list of who you want the campaign to be sent out to, or you can edit an existing contact list that you may have created in the past. As you can see, I have 2 different contact lists that I've already created. As you can see, I have 1 contact in this one. I have 5 contacts in this other one called My Mailing List. I'm going to go through and create a new contact list. So you just select New Contact List. Right here, you can name the list. in the description below. So right here, I'm going to call it Test for Odyssey Webinar. And if you would like to include a description of your list, you certainly may. So I'm going to say showing the marketing portion of Odyssey. We give you the ability to choose from a list of colors. My favorite color happens to be orange, so I'm going to choose orange. And if you'd like to change the icon, we give you a couple different things to change the icon. Now, over here, who do you want in your contact list? Right now, it defaults to build a custom list. This means you can add anybody from your contact list, so you can add or remove people at free will, whoever you would like. Now, I don't have as many, I'm sure, as most of you, but I do have quite a few. But I might not want to do a custom list. Maybe you'd like to just simply send your campaign to all your contacts. You could do the same and select all your contacts. Everybody would be moved over. You still have the ability to remove those that you do not want that was sent over. You could add any of your printer at work subscribers. I only have 2 contacts, but I'm certain most of you probably have more than that. So you could add in anybody that's subscribed to printer at work. We also give you the ability to add anybody that's recently registered. And when I select that, this is where you can select what we have predefined, who has been registered in the last year, anybody from 0 to 7 days ago, and so forth. Or if you'd like to select a certain date, maybe you'd like to see somebody registered since January 1st, you could certainly add a date within the past year, and Odyssey would add in those people that have been added since then. Now, I haven't added anybody new on my print shop since then, but maybe you have. You could also select anyone that may have ordered from you in the past 90 days. So I've had a couple of my test people in my print shop that have ordered in the past 90 days. I'm going to go back to build a custom list. I'm just going to select a couple of my people here that I know have valid emails or would receive this. Again, you would have people that have valid emails. These are a lot of emails that don't exist, or just kind of made up for the purposes of such as this webinar to show you examples. So we're just going to add a couple folks to this contact list. Again, you can always select the red remove here button if you did not want to. All right. Let's see, add a description. I believe I had this here, but we'll say testing for marketing. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save this contact list. So now I have 3 contact lists, the 2 that I originally had and the one that I just called Test for Odyssey Webinar. What you can do, I could still go in and edit this contact list if I'd like to. Sometimes I have to select refresh. I'm not sure. That's just due to possibly my browser. I use Firefox. I know people sometimes prefer to use Chrome, so it all depends on. But you can edit, or you could delete a contact list if you know there's not one here anymore that you want to use. You could delete a contact list. So I have a test for the Odyssey webinar list. I'm going to leave that to use for my example. The next thing that I'm going to do for the purposes of this, if I'm going to click on accounts, here are the 4 different social media accounts that you can link up to with Odyssey and post for campaigns, and I'll mention more about campaigns after this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue or log in with these 4 to get it set up. So simply you would select continue or sign in with the various social media icons, and it'll take you to a separate window briefly where you can log in to your social media, and then you're logged in with Odyssey. Facebook has a little bit different where you have to go through some different things to allow us to connect. It's unfortunately more or less on their end. There we go. Once I've logged into Facebook, it says I am connected. I'm going to do same thing with these other ones here real quick. I don't know if this is the same for everybody with Twitter, but I happen to have it set up where when I log into Twitter, my cell phone receives a code where I need to enter in for Twitter. Again, I don't know if that's for everybody, but I did receive this code on my phone, so I'm going to enter this in and submit. It's going to take me back, and now I'm connected to Twitter. Sign in to LinkedIn here. Quick sign in to LinkedIn. Should do the same thing. logged in here, connected, and I'm going to do the last one. WordPress is, I just have a test one here that I have set up. Same thing, you're going to log in. I'm going to approve. This one asked me if I'd like to approve market ideas for printers to post to that. I'm going to approve logging in. So now all 4 of these social media accounts that we have with Odyssey right now with marketing, they're logged in, they're connected, and so forth. And as we saw under here, I do have a contact list selected. So now what we're going to do is go to the campaigns tab. As you can see, I have done some testing and some other campaigns in the past. Up here is a dashboard of the different Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and WordPress. If you have a manual action or an email action, I'll go over these again. This is how many have been completed, how many of these might be active. So it's kind of an overview dashboard here of all the different types of tasks that can be done and what's been completed and so forth. Down here, as I was saying, these are previous campaigns that I have created. In each one, it shows you how many Facebook tasks do you have, how many Twitter, how many LinkedIn, how many email, and if you happen to have a manual task that you wanted to put out there. So it also gives you an overview of how many of each type of these are set up within the campaign. 4 actions have completed, 100% of my actions have completed. I'm going to go through and create a new campaign and just go through and set up high level from each of these 6 inside this campaign. So I'm going to select new campaign. To get your campaign started, you need a triggering event, just something. So I'm going to click, right, it defaults to today's date. Down here is where you can do the slider to change the time that you'd like. I'm going to put 2:20 or so. We'll see at the end if we're done before or after then or what have you, but the minimum between each task is 5 minutes, and so we might not see the completion of this campaign, but we'll put 2:20 p.m., which is my local time, and we're going to select done. After you select the date and time, you need to choose a mailing list. Again, my 3 that I created show up here. I'm going to choose the one that I created for you folks called Test for Odyssey Webinar, and then you select Save. So now the plus sign, when you hit this, this is where you select what type of action do you want to create. Do you want to post to any of your social media out of these 4? Would you like to send an automatic email? Or do you want to create an internal manual action to remind somebody or have something show up in the alert bell so that something needs to get done? I'm going to go through each one of these in this campaign and set up at least one of each one of these, and I'll show you how this goes. So create an automatic Facebook post. I do know right now our developers are updating something to make the Facebook posting a little bit smoother and easier. So I'm hoping that I can still go through and at least show you how to set it up. So I'm going to click that. Facebook post. You can add a description of what you would like to call this Facebook post. This is the description that'll show up once I'm done here. This window will be removed just as a reminder. I'm just going to call it print more. The delay after the task completes, this is the amount of time after I have this action complete when my next action or next task would happen. So let's say you know that you want to add a Twitter or an email after this Facebook post. What's the delay before that next action happens? And it'll make more sense when you see how it's set up. But I'm going to say I just want it to be 1/10 of an hour, something like that. Oh, it's every 5 minutes. So I'm just going to put, actually, yeah, we'll just leave 0.1 there. But the marketing campaign, it runs every 5 minutes. So then schedule your delay accordingly. So 1/10 of an hour. The text for your Facebook post, what do you want this to show up on your company's Facebook page when this is posted? I'm going to say simply print it like you mean it. Just an example. Can be anything that you want to copy and paste from somewhere, something that you know that you want to put up in your Facebook post. If you have a URL to include with your post, which is optional, you can copy that down. If you want to add an image, I'm just going to add an image of my print shop, select an image, or you can add a new image and browse on your computer wherever your images are saved. But I have used this one before, that's why I had stayed here. I'm going to select use this image, and down here, it knows that I have a company Facebook page called Tank Printing. What should show up is your company Facebook page should also show up down here. And there's a little question mark to mention a little bit more. And then I'm going to save action. So the name that I gave this is called Print More. This is when I went in and edited, it's called Print More. So this isn't necessarily going to show up on your Facebook page. That's just showing you or telling you whatever you want to call this so you might know what it's about. So I called this Print More, and that only shows up here on this icon here. As you can see, it's a Facebook message that's going to go out. So now I'm going to hit the plus again to add a Twitter post, an automatic Twitter post. So I'm going to select this. And again, the tweet, what do you want to call it? I'm going to probably name it the same thing, called print it. The delay after the task completes, again, what is the amount of time between this Twitter post and the next one that you might be putting out there? So I'm just going to put 0.1 hours. Text for my Twitter post, print it like you mean it. I'm going to actually capitalize all these to be consistent. You can add an image if you'd like, or you don't have to. I'm going to go to add new image. I'm going to filter and select this wide format printing here, and I'm going to go to use this image. Each tweet you can include up to 4 static images, a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF, or 1 animated GIF. So I'm just going to use this 1 image for now. We limit it, which I believe is due to Twitter. Let's see if I can take this out. 280 characters are limitation by Twitter. Then it tells you how many you have left after you input your description here. I'm going to go to save action. Remember, I put in 0.1 hour in the Facebook location here under delay after task complete. That shows up here. After 1/10 of an hour, we want the next action, which is a tweet, to show up. In the tweet, I put my delay of 1/10 of an hour, or 0.1. That's going to be the delay until the next action happens, which is going to be this automated LinkedIn post. So I'm going to select LinkedIn post. What do I want to do with the delay? I'm just going to be consistent. What am I going to call it? We're just going to call it print it, and print it like you mean it. If you would like to include a full URL of a link to include with your post, you certainly can. If there's an alternate title you would like, you can add an alternate title. If you'd like to add an image, you could certainly look for an image on your computer. I don't really have an image for this one. If you would like to include an alternate description for the link you're including, you may certainly do that. And depending on how you have LinkedIn set up, I have a personal LinkedIn timeline. I don't have any company or anything like that, how I have Facebook set up with a company page, but I would say save action. Oh, I have to include a full URL. Well, let's see if this will work, because I do love weather, and weather.gov is a government website. Print it. All right, so now I have my LinkedIn post set up. Save action. There's that 1/10 of an hour again that's set up. I'm going to add a blog post to publish. I'm going to click on that WordPress icon, blog post. I'm going to just call it print it. Delay after the task completes. 1/10 of an hour again. What's the title of your WordPress post? Print more. And I'm going to copy what I have in my clipboard. Whoops, I had print it like you mean. What's my text for my WordPress post? This is an example of a WordPress post from Odyssey Marketing. All right. You can add an image. You can tell Odyssey where would you like that image to be positioned when it's posted to your blog, top, bottom, or as a featured image. Do you want a comma separated list of categories for any reason, or maybe a list of keywords for the post? And your personal one, or whichever WordPress you're connected to, is going to show up. I'm going to select Save Action. Here's my WordPress action that is going to be part of this campaign. I'm going to select the plus button again and send an automatic email. What this is this is going to be an email that you can send to, and actually we're going to start filling this out. A short description of the email: print more whatever that you might want to have, a product. The email subject line, please print this product. We're going to call this. Assign to, who is the email from in your company? We're just going to pick one of my employees here. It's from one of my employees called Tank Fargo, and this is going to go out to anybody that, as you remember, was in that contact list. So all of these things that I'm adding, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, and the email especially, it's going to go out, the email in this instance, to those people on the contact list. Your email text goes here. Example of my email action. So I believe I had 2 or 3 folks on my contact list. This is who this email will go to. And I'm going to save action. The last action I'm going to add is what's called a manual task or a manual action. Short description, check press. Oh, let's just check digital press for jams. Who am I going to assign this to? We'll assign it to the same employee as part of my print shop. What's the expected turnaround time? We'll say it might take them a couple hours. And what's the detailed description of this task? Please check our digital press for jams issues. Again, this manual task could be anything. It could be, please ensure postcards for so-and-so are printed in time. It's whatever you need to let whoever in your print shop know something needs to be done. And it would show up in their alert bill when they're logged in. This is just the amount of time, it's hard to read. This is the amount of time after this task is scheduled to start that the system will wait before sending them a reminder. So we expect it to be a 2-hour turnaround. So I'll send them a reminder if it's not been finished. I'm going to save this action, and it shows up at the bottom as a manual action. So this is an example of a campaign with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, WordPress. An email is going to go out to your contact list. You have a manual action for somebody in your company that needs to perform something. Let's give this campaign a name. We'll call it Odyssey Webinar Demo. We're going to make this active, and we're going to save the campaign. Once you select Save Campaign, you're taken back to your main campaign page. And let's see if we have that one. Here it is down below. Odyssey Webinar Demo. The first thing that's going to go is a Facebook. As you can see, all of these are ×1, meaning there's only one of these actions per type of tasks, so one Facebook, one LinkedIn, and so forth. Nothing has really been done yet. I had just saved it. Again, it might take a couple minutes for this to run through. If you click the edit button, it brings up the campaign that you have started and all the different actions or tasks that need to be done. Yeah, so that's an overview of, we'll go over this again, setting up a contact list. You can edit an existing contact list. You can delete a contact list. Under the Accounts tab, this is again where you can log into your accounts. Now, if you were not logged in under this Account tab and you were creating a campaign, you would be prompted to also log in, I believe. I just have a habit of making sure that these are connected before I go through and create my campaign. That's just the habit I have. So again, once you create or save your campaign, that's down below here, and you can go through and you can continue to edit that campaign. If you ever want to make it inactive, you're like, oh, I don't really want this to go out. I made a mistake or whatever, you can quick make it inactive, and this campaign will then not send out any of those posts or emails or what have you. As you can see, then it says inactive. You can filter by if there's any completed campaigns. As you can see, I have a couple from the past. If you have any that are in progress, which I don't have any right now. If you have any that are inactive, which would be that demo one that I just made inactive. So you can filter by the different type of campaigns that you have as well. I'm going to go back in. I'm actually going to make this campaign active and save that. Like I said, it may be a couple minutes before I start seeing these completed going through, and I'll probably check these after the webinar just to make sure they go through on the various social media accounts that I have, but I have no doubt that these will show up. So that's how you can use Odyssey to your marketing advantage. You can set up automated posts, automated emails, some sort of internal task or reminder for folks in your business there, have Odyssey do the work for you. Set up your campaign to be automated with the different social media, emails, whatever it may be, and go through and save that campaign, and that'll be set up for you to be sent out. Like I said, I believe it's every 5 minutes in between campaigns or tasks, I should say, that these are set up. So this is a great tool that maybe folks haven't thought of using, or they didn't want to get that far into it. Please refer to this webinar, and you can certainly go through and set up your campaigns and lists as you wish. We are always here for questions. If you have questions, certainly call us or email us, and we'll be here for your questions. So with marketing, I'm not going to get too much more deep, or I'm not necessarily going to wait around for these to show up on the various social media business pages and so forth that I have set up, but I will check these after the webinar. I do believe I mentioned that I was going to go over permissions group. I see that we have a few minutes left over, and so I'm going to be going over permissions here real quick. So I'm going to go back to my Odyssey homepage or dashboard. And permissions is found under settings, and my settings icon happens to be up at the top here under permissions. Right now, I currently have 4 permissions group, 1 all access, 1 called inventory purchasing, 1 invoicing, and 1 scheduling. So 1 called all access. These can be created and called whatever you want, and you can add whoever you want to them. But just as an example, my all access, everything is checked. So that's meaning these 2 people within my company have access to everything in Odyssey. Inventory and purchasing, let's see what I have selected. So this is an example where this employee only has access to edit the inventory, manage inventory, maybe edit purchasing orders, edit accounts payable vendors and so forth, view purchase orders. This is a way that you can limit only certain employees to only certain sections of Odyssey, so something isn't accidentally removed, deleted, edited. That could happen, as we know, with human error. Invoicing is another group. Another permissions group that I have, I only have 1 employee as part of this permissions group. If I select the edit button, they have the ability to create an invoice. There's probably a couple more that I may not have given permissions to, but this is a way, as I mentioned, to set up certain section of Odyssey and give certain employees just various sections. Let me quick add a new group. I'm going to go through and uncheck everything, and we're going to name this example for Odyssey. Maybe this would be orders or ordering. We're going to go down here, and let's see if there's anything quick I see that might be related to ordering. View orders, obviously. Let's see, what else might a person looking in the main orders section need to do? Probably not too much. View orders, they might want to view the estimate that's associated with the order. And let's say they might want to need to edit the estimate. That's add permissions group. Okay, there's nobody in here yet. So I'm going to just move over this person here and this person here. So I have 2 contacts that now have been added to this permission groups that's called example for Odyssey. I should say Odyssey webinar for ordering. You can always go in and rename your permission group if you want to deselect or select other areas that you may have forgotten. You can certainly do that and go update. But these 2 folks have been added to this new permissions group. If there's any reason that you need to delete an existing permissions group or delete people, there's a red X. Remove the person, or red X if you need to remove the permissions group. So that's a quick overview of permissions group and how you might be able to use that to your advantage. Just limit various employees to certain areas of Odyssey, so you're not having too many cooks in the kitchen, will you? So just depends on how you want to run that. So with that, thank you for joining us during this edition of This Week in Odyssey. And just remember to stick around. We have a survey at the end. And thank you very much.
For those watching live, stick around for a 2-question survey. On behalf of the whole team at Marketing Ideas for Printers, thanks for joining us.